June of 2022. You know, I wanted to get back to this sooner, but we here at Mike Mangold Investigation have been absolutely slammed working on things. Rob Mangold here, Mike Mangold's brother. We have a lot to cover. We have a mechanic we interviewed that was at Reno in 2015. We have a Q&A on that. Then we're going to go over a kind of summation of things, where we go from here, but also within that, there's a Q&A I'm going to do of all the, thank you for all your interest, all the communications, emails, telephone calls, questions you've submitted. I'm going to try and answer a few at the end of the video. And so let's get into it. What we found out about the Reno air race in 2015, this Q&A with Tobias Odewald, who is a mechanic. He's out of Germany. We got him through Facebook communications, and we did a Facebook video call that's about an hour. So when you hear this, understand that I'm going to read off a piece of paper, my notes. This is a paraphrase summation of what Rob Mangold remembers about the call. This is not a transcript. It's not a verbatim, word for word, quote for quote. We're not doing that. This call was not recorded. This is my recollection of the call. So let's get into it. To Tobias, question number 1. Take us back to Reno Air Races Jet Class 2015 and Mike Mangold's L-39. Who was Mike's pit crew? Anna Boardman was Mike's crew chief, and I, Tobias, helped as pit crew mechanic. Mike talked about his racing intentions and why he was there at Reno in 2015. Mike wanted to continue to be around jet racing, to supervise the jet class, watch out for the rookies, train them. Mike said something like, "We don't have to win anymore, just do our best safely." And I'll add that Mike, maybe you see the shirt behind me, he was Pylon Racing School instructor in 2012 and subsequent years after that. He was also director of the jet class. Now back to the Q&A. Question number 2 at Tobias. Was the fuel control unit ever adjusted or changed at the race? Was there a race-only setting? I, Tobias, was involved in the FCU setting September 2015 under Mike's decision to have an expert tuner, another team's crew chief supervise the adjusting. After a discussion with Mike, he wanted to stay within factory specifications for safety to reduce risk of failure, unnecessary wear, damage, loss, fuel consumption, and above all, keep everyone safe. He knew it was risky, and he did not want to go higher. We knew of other L-39s that went higher, but no one ever to the maximum. Mike said, "It's too dangerous. We don't do that. Never to maximum pressure." He would never fly with anyone in the back seat at the higher race setting, and it was always within specifications at Reno. The setting was done by another team's chief mechanic in the cockpit running the engine, while I, Tobias, was underneath the engine on the FCU control screws, Fuel Control Unit control screws, through the access panels. We made the adjustments to more than just one screw, set it to redline maximum, but never to FCU maximum of 85 ATM. Much too dangerous. Yes, this was a two-man job. Let me clarify something here. There is a maximum of the unit itself of 85 ATM. That's the highest it'll go, highest you can set it. Then there are the specifications, a lower setting on the gauge and in the manual, and that's 65 ATM. That is the maximum in the specification in the manual and the red line on the gauge. Don't confuse that with the maximum, the mechanism the FCU can go of 85 ATM. All right? Back to the Q&A. When the race was over, while still in Reno, we set it back down lower and, of course, locked it in. Reset lower for more non-race operations. Mike's trip back home, Reno to Apple Valley, air shows, aerobatics, joy rides with passengers, and for better fuel economy. Question number 3. Was engine performance an issue? What did you do, if anything, to go faster? We had discussed next steps to go faster. We taped shut any air openings on the fuselage to make it more streamlined for racing. We discussed more steps for performance and to take the tip tanks off for less weight, drag, and more speed. But did not due to Mike's desire to participate on a budget and not to be out there to win at all costs. He had us take the rear seat out to reduce weight and let it be known no passengers while at Reno. I even asked for a ride in the jet and Mike said no. Never at the races, perhaps later at another time and location and not at this setting. Another team member wanted a joyride but got a firm no as well. How often did you do a visual check on the L-39 at Reno? We always did a walk-around visual check of the aircraft before and after every flight. I never noticed any changes in the tail cone, inner or outer skin, paint or metal. Was always clean, no soot or burn marks throughout the whole time at Reno. Now that you mention it, no other L-39 jets had any soot or burn marks. Years later, I did see your YouTube videos and crash site where you point out the burnt inside of the tail cone and saw the outside paint was hardly damaged. Very suspicious. I've never seen anything like that before. Question number 5. Did you hear about the NTSB report findings from the 2015 crash? When I later learned what happened to Mike with this FCU setting at 85 ATM, I knew that was not Mike doing that. He never would approve that setting. Why would he do that? It was not even a race. He would never fly with a passenger if any excessive risk was involved. It surprised me to learn that the FCU was found at 85 ATM and tested at Aerovoda Shodi also determined there was nothing wrong with it. And to read the NTSB report purposely intentionally set to maximum of 85 ATM. No, this is ridiculous, not right. Mike would never do this or allow it. Sounds like someone did it without his knowledge or approval. I asked Tobias, sabotage. There was no verbal response. This is why it's beneficial to do a video call, because you can see the body language and the response. Question number 6. If someone wanted to just turn the FCU up to maximum 85 ATM without care, that could be a one-person job, right? Only if you want that to be your final flight. Now, a statement Mike Mangold investigation team wants to make in general about Reno and everybody at the Reno air races. I'm not going to name everybody, the list too long. You know, you got RABRA, Reno Air Racing Association, you got Aviation Classics, Ultimate Aviation, all the mechanics, all the people that maybe touched the Mike Mangold L-39. I want to say this to you. Let's get one thing perfectly clear here. Thank you so much for taking care of my brother Mike over the years, keeping him safe, doing everything right, and no fatalities at Reno in the jet class. I thank you. My family thanks you. I salute you. Excellent job. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you. Thanks. Let's go over some of the questions that you submitted via phone call, email, messages, social media, and the like. This is from the general public. And one thing you want to maybe keep in mind here is what are the actions, behaviors, and information that we have? Is this consistent with foul play or more consistent with an accident? But the overall bigger question as you listen to this and maybe play back the video here, where does it fall within the category of accident, performance tuning, suicide, or foul play? Prior to this, we were calling it nefarious intent, but foul play. So keep that in mind as we go through this, and you drop it into whatever category you think is appropriate. Maybe it fits both. Maybe it fits none of the above. Maybe you have a theory. You let us know. So let's get into some of the questions here. I'll read these off in no particular order. Why fill it up full of fuel? They're talking about the December 6th, 2015 Mike's final flight with Giza Desi, the passenger. Why fill it up full of fuel? This has always puzzled me, because they're only going up for about a 5 or 10 minute flight. Why do we need all this fuel? And if we have an exotic FCU setting that is maybe risky, and we later found out it was set to 85 later after your NTSB found it, why would you fill it up full of fuel? You know, we just went over, they were up at Reno, they race it, they have the higher risky setting, but not to the maximum 85, only to redline maximum. And they're not filling it full of fuel, because what if they go down? You got a fireball, you have all this extra fuel that's going to burn. That's why would you fill it full of fuel at Apple Valley for the joyride? Perhaps you didn't know about the setting. Perhaps you were confident after the annual everything was fine in your last flight. Why no flight suits? December 6, 2015. They're flame retardant suits. Mike didn't wear one, neither did the passenger, Giza Desi. Maybe because it was a quick flight. They didn't know there was any risk. They didn't know about an FCU setting. Why is it that when Mike flies in Reno, they always wear a flight suit? And even when they're allowed to fly with a passenger at Reno, a flight instructor in the back seat, they always wear flight suits, flame retardant flight suits. So in this final flight, they're not wearing the flight suits. Maybe they were confident of the setting and everything was safe. There's no need to wear the flight suits. Someone else asked, why the highest setting for this flight? It wasn't even a race, September 6, 2015. I can't understand that myself. Nobody can. He raced at Reno. He never went to 85 ATM. Nobody did that we know of that lived to tell about it. Why would he go to 85 ATM on a joyride, a non-race, a non-competition, a non-performance run at Apple Valley? Maybe because he didn't know it was set at 85. As I said before, where was the solo test flight? Where was the test run? Where was it documented? And later on, there's more questions. We'll move on here. Why with a passenger at the highest setting? Didn't we just go over in Reno? They don't fly with any passengers at the race setting because it's higher, it's risky. Why would he bring a passenger at the highest possible setting that no one has ever done before in the history of the L-39, full of fuel at Apple Valley, undocumented? Why would Mike do this with all his years' experience? Mr. Safety, Pylon Racing School instructor at Reno. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Somebody says, it sounds like it takes two to adjust the FCU. Okay, how was it done maybe at Apple Valley? So we go back to Reno. You have Tobias on the adjustment. You have the chief mechanic, another team's chief mechanic in the cockpit running the engine. You have Mike, who approved it and was there, and they discussed how high they would go. That's 3 people. And I believe perhaps Anna Boardman, the crew chief, may have been involved, had some knowledge. I don't know why we cannot get a hold of Anna Boardman. We've reached out through social media, messages, text, through others. We have yet to hear back. We'd like to hear back from Anna Boardman. I think you could have a lot to offer us and help the team out in the investigation. We hope to hear from you soon, Anna, and others that, well, we're just waiting to hear from you. Hold on. I have to interrupt the video at this particular time and put this late-breaking news in. We've just been in contact with Anna Boardman. She's been cooperative. She's been helpful, very helpful. We gained a lot of new valuable knowledge, so much so that it deserves its own video. And I can't put all that in here. We're going to do our own video, perhaps an interview with Anna in the future, and we'll further clarify a lot of our statements, a lot of our claims, and further clarify Anna's position on this whole thing. So you might want to subscribe so you get that as soon as it comes out. We return you now to the video stream. So we believe 3 or 4 people knew in Reno, perhaps more, perhaps a team talked. So 2 people minimum to do it, perhaps 4 people know about it. Now we shift to Apple Valley. We've been asking questions. Nobody knows about the setting in Apple Valley. And we know it couldn't have been done because Reno, they lowered it. We heard from Tobias. They flew from Reno. Mike flew from Reno to Apple Valley. Everything was fine. The tail cone was not burnt. Nothing wrong. And now it's in Apple Valley between December 2nd and December 6th, 2015. So who worked on it? Who were the at least two people to properly adjust it and per the documentation, the manual, where is it in the flight log, the mechanics log, the FCU certificate, where is it documented to change? Where is it safety wired? We can't verify it was safety wired, not even the NTSB. And if you do this right, and you're a certified mechanic, you always safety wire. We just went over this with the Q&A with Tobias. That's another strange anomaly here. So now we're in Apple Valley. You would need at least two people. We can't find the other person. Of course, Mike is gone. We don't know who adjusted it, but we know from others that it is possible for one person to come in and make an adjustment, a one-way ticket, if you will, that it ends in a fireball. You don't need a second person to do that. You crank it all the way up because you really aren't adjusting it. You're setting it up for catastrophic failure. Next question they have. How many knew at Reno why we went over that? At least 3 or 4 people knew at Reno. We've only got one of them to really talk to us, where are the others? Did Mike and Giza adjust it? Well, I know. You're thinking that, yeah, Mike and Giza adjusted the morning before the flight. Well, that's not possible because we have Giza's cell phone, the records, the communications, the cell phone logs, and the text between Giza and his fiancée the whole morning on Giza's drive up to possibly fly with Mike. It was not definite they were going to fly. And so every 10 or 15 minutes, there's a communication between Giza and his fiancée, and they go over everything. They're talking about the drive, the traffic, and they're going to meet Bella there and talk to other people. And so every 10 or 15 minutes, there's no indication that Giza's picking up any tools to work on a plane or do any adjustment, and Mike the same thing. And then we know Mike was having breakfast with Nick that morning, and then he was going to the airport to meet up with Giza. So there's validation that Giza did not do any adjusting because the communications, the hours before the flight, it's the safety briefing. He's putting on the parachute. He goes over when they're fueling the plane. He has photos and texts going back to his fiancée. And he did talk with Bella, his friend at Apple Valley Airport. So no, Giza did not do any adjusting. Mike didn't any. There's no documentation to that effect or anything like that. Why was it not tested at Apple Valley Airport? The setting was done at Apple Valley Airport because if they did it at Reno, the crash and deaths would have been at Reno. If they did it during the flight, where is it in the flight log that he landed and made the adjustment and he had to take on additional fuel? The math will bear out. You can't make that flight from Reno to Apple Valley on 1 tank of fuel. Was the FCU safety wired? We can't verify that. Think about that. On that final adjustment, if it's not safety wired, well, who the hell would do it that way? We just went over everybody in their right mind on this aircraft, licensed mechanic or not, pilot. You safety wire it, you lock it. Why wasn't that found on this final flight? You decide where that one falls. Some other people, they look at this and they say, Rob, give me the script. I'll edit it. I'll tell you where you're going wrong. You could be a critic. You could be whoever you want to be. But a critic is not going to help at this time because you think, you watch too much TV. You think, where's the DNA? Where's the video? Where's security video? Where's the DNA blood evidence? There's none of that. There's not going to be any of that. There is no video. The security cameras at the airport didn't capture anything. So when you look at this, you could be a critic if you want. We need people to help the investigation team, to take the piece that you're an expert at, you're familiar with, chase it down, figure out what happened. It's kind of like a dig. You got to find the piece, dust it off, examine it, and see where and if it fits in. The problem is that everybody wants it all handed to them. And believe me, we've been doing a lot of digging. And just understand this, some people, they don't want you to dig. They prevent you. They don't want to communicate with you. You ask them a question and it's silence. But we see the body language. We see other things. Sometimes it's actions and behaviors. It's not what's said. It's what's not said. It's what's not done. It's the inaction and the disinterest of people. You see where all that fits in. So let me sum it up this way. We move forward. We believe it's foul play. We're going to have more information to back that up about the setting. We're focused on Apple Valley. You have other theories, you let us know. My FCU challenge still stands. Anybody out there who wants to say they fly their L-39 at 85 ATM, we'll fly it on down. There's a number of airports here in the LA area, LAX, Long Beach, John Wayne, Santa Ana, SNA, Montgomery Field, San Diego Airport. Come on down, we're going to film it. You're going to have to sign a little release for me, and I'll give you your check for $10,000, 2 passes over the airport. We're going to film it. It's your decision. Or you do it on the ground, 5 minutes, full throttle. 10 minutes was full throttle. 10 minutes full throttle sustained on the ground. Nobody's done it. Nobody's come forward. We're still waiting. With that, we'll see you another day, another way.